And today it's Dr. Joshua. Josh is the Vice President of Innovation at Vituity and Inflect Health, an emergency physician, engineer, and researcher. He has led development of 35 plus healthcare technologies, including the first AI sepsis tool. Hey, I thought I built the first AI sepsis tool.
First FDA breakthrough designated.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. With FDA breakthrough designation, a Harvard graduate, 5 years US patent, many publications. His focus is AI, health equity, and real world clinical innovation. And Josh is a great friend, and we met several times, and I bounce off ideas. I've sent him some startups, and so we go a long way. But
Mhm.
he's an amazing person, and that's what we want to highlight with this. No PowerPoints, no
I
strategizing or
I can assure you I am completely unprepared.
that's exactly how we want you to be, and relax, have your coffee, and let's just chit chat. All right, we'll find out. First of all, and these are all, if you're looking for pearls, I'm sure you'll find them throughout this talk. But mainly, we want to know, how did Josh become Josh? So, Josh, tell us a little bit about your childhood and, how you grew up and some of the things that are crucial for your development and growth.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. I actually grew up in Appalachia. I grew up in Southeast Ohio on a farm, and it was a horse farm. I think probably from an innovation perspective, that's pretty helpful because, like, how when you're in school and you run into problems or something's going wrong, and there's always like my first instinct is, well, I just need to talk to someone who knows what to do and knows how to solve this, right? And then, when you're doing innovation, well, often by definition, you're going where someone hasn't gone before, and they're like, you're a kid and there's no adult to call, right? And I think
Got to
the
figure
thought
it
of
out.
being in on a farm is similar, right? Where it's like something broke and you need to fix it, and there's really no adults around, you just have to figure it out. So I think that probably helped shape it unknowingly quite a bit.
And what was your role on the farm? What jobs did you hold?
Oh my God. Well, the worst one was putting up hay. So, because it's like August and it's hot and you're sweating and all the stuff gets on you and it's itchy and you pick up a bale and you throw it into the back of the truck and you just repeat and it's miserable. And I have to say, whether it was, in El Salvador, whether I was in residency and had been awake for umpteen hours, I always
Yeah.
get myself, this is still better than putting up hay. Right? Like once I knew my floor, the rest of the life is kind of a lot easier.
Yeah, yeah.
So, so I did everything from mucking. I actually trained horses. I had a stint as a professional horse trainer for a while because I was on a horse farm.
Wow.
Got some national titles
Nice,
and ran
nice.
the farm for a while at one point. Yeah, it
Like,
was
would you go to the rodeos and all that?
well. These weren't that kind of horses.
Not,
These were show horses. So they're a type of horse called Pasofinos, and so it's a show horse. So you'd go around in a circle, and then someone says who's prettiest. That's kind of
oh, okay.
more of that
What,
kind of.
what, yeah, what was the most fun job on the farm for you when you were
Oh, training the horses was by far the
horses?
riding. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that was the most fun, and also it was also another good thing for managing teams and strategy because you work on one thing at a time,
yeah,
and some days are good days and some days are bad days, and you keep working on one thing at a time, and then days turn into weeks, turn into months, turn into years, and suddenly you went from nothing to a finished product, right? And it
yeah, yeah,
kind of taught
yeah.
that.
Lot of learning experiences there. So, okay, now you're doing growing up, going to school, which in so Ohio. What made you choose medicine? Were your parents, kind of in that space, or were
No,
they
so
pushing you? Somebody said you should do medicine, like my
no,
dad.
my
Just
first,
kidding.
my first career choice was being James Bond because,
Okay.
like, James Bond was really cool. Um, but then it also turns out like you might get shot at and stuff, and that really seemed a lot less appealing to me. And then my second career choice was probably playing hockey as a professional hockey, um, which could have happened if I'd had like more talent.
Yeah.
Like,
Just one thing less.
yeah, I don't know why people got hung up on it. I thought that was not that big a deal. So then I was 16 and I talked to a family friend who is a physician, Dan Marizon. He's like, well, you should think about medicine. I said, okay, well, how would I explore that? And he goes, well, if you want to see what medicine's really like, you should go and work in the ER. And there was a little rural ER that he got me into as a volunteer when I was 16. And that first day, it was chaotic and there was all sorts of stuff going on. There were a couple full arrests, right? Like for a little rural ER, it was
Yeah.
actually a very abnormal day. It just happened to be the first day I was a volunteer there. And, I'm just like cleaning floors and changing trash cans, right? Because what other skills did I have? I was 16, right? Um, and I saw like what the doctors were doing, and I'm like, that looks like so much fun. And they get paid for it. Like, who could ask for
Uh-huh.
anything more? And so that was the point when I knew I wanted to be an ER doc.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought, and yeah, I was just like, okay, that's it.
What I've noticed is that a lot of the people in the innovation space are ER doctors. You know, like our Dr. GPT, who was our last guest,
Harvey, yeah,
Harvey, he's
Castro,
an ER doc.
yeah.
And I don't know, something about the mindset that that attracts or the people that get attracted to ER medicine have a different mindset. And that leads to innovation. What's your take on that? Have you seen that? I've noticed that.
Yeah, I think, and I don't think it's exclusive to emergency physicians, obviously, but I
Yeah.
think there may be a disproportionate that at least for me, when I believe that what makes someone really become an innovator or have that innovation mindset isn't that you see something and you want to make it better, because I think most people want to make everything better, right? I think that's kind of an innate human drive.
Yeah.
But I think where a lot of people get shut down is, when you first say, "Oh, I think maybe I could make it better with these different approaches," right? "Oh, I think I could try this." And then that like little saboteur says, "Oh, no, you couldn't," and instantly lists out a whole laundry list of why it's going to fail. And I think someone who's successful in innovation gets so excited by those two words, what if? Right? And all you need are those two words of what if, and it's enough for you to like go down that rabbit hole and damn the torpedoes, right? And I think that emergency physicians maybe disproportionately as a characteristic are comfortable once they can ask what if, and then
Yeah.
you get to go.
Yeah. Also, I think maybe they're not scared of chaos. They're not.
Yeah, it's all that
They're not
uncertainty, and so it's not that,
uncertainty, right?
you know,
There's no clear protocol. You're just you, and you got to figure things out and come out alive. Uh,
and you get used to not knowing what's on the other side.
so-
Right? Like you're like,
exactly.
I think this will work. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So okay, you're in high school and you say, okay, I want to study medicine. What are the next steps that you took?
Oh, well, I actually thought I was gonna just end up going to a state school somewhere because I was
Uh-huh.
busy in high school, playing hockey and training horses and
Yeah.
and other high school boy appropriate activities that I lived
Okay.
through. And then I applied to a ton of different colleges and got into Harvard, so and went there. Hockey was good.
Uh, did uh, did um did hockey get you, further in your education because you get to a school that you really wanted to or something like that, or that was just another hobby kind of thing?
Somewhere in the middle. So I never made the varsity team there. I played JV there, but their JV team when I played was integrated back into the varsity program. And
Mhm.
what that meant was it, I talked to a lot of people who, when they go to college, it's kind of a rough transition. And for my kids, I have four kids, and for three of them who've been through it now, it was it was a rough transition. And what hockey meant for me in terms of education was that from the first day I got on campus, I had a group, I had a posse, right? I had a sense of belonging. And so there was
Yeah,
never that struggle to find your people, right? And you're a freshman. I'm like, what do you know? You're a freshman. But there's a senior there who's like, look, you fool, this is how you do it. You're like, okay, right? And I think there's a huge value to that.
yeah. And then, from there you went to medical school.
Yeah,
Um,
so then so I actually took between my junior and senior year, I took off.
mhm.
Um, I don't know why. I was just I saw this program and it was called Geomed, which was kind of like a medically bent Peace Corps. And so
Mm,
it took EMTs and paramedics, and that I was at the time,
mm.
and that were in college or recently in college, recent graduates, and sent them to El Salvador because the person who founded it had a connection there.
No,
And so I took a year off and did that. And and then when I was in El Salvador, during that year, I was out in a rural area, no running water, had electricity on and off, usually an hour or two every day.
yeah,
There was some electricity in some of the places. And it's very humbling, in part because, I had all these very kind of wonderful Ivy League notions about what
yeah,
what the people should want, right? Um, which didn't really mesh with reality all that well. And also, in my quest to be, a physician god sort of thing, you realize that public health and industrial engineering is going to do more for healthcare than you ever are with a stethoscope or a scalpel. And so that really kind of pushed me in the direction of saying, well, how can I, you know, actually have an impact or leave a little ripple in the world somehow? And that really pushed me towards the public health direction. So
yeah.
then when I applied for medical school, I actually applied to MD PhD programs where I was trying to figure out how I could do a PhD more on the epidemiology and biostats side. And it just so happened that Case Western had a program that they started that year where it was still NIH funded, but I could do a PhD in biostats. And so I did their MD PhD program.
What did you do at Harvard?
Oh, I did a biochemistry, which then became molecular cellular biology by the time I graduated. And
Cool,
spent
cool.
spent enough time in a lab
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
realized that I was not the right person to be in a lab.
So went down and then zoom back out to
Yeah,
public
yeah.
health.
Yeah, that's true. I went to the molecular level and just got more and more macro over time. Pretty soon I'll be doing like, you know,
Yeah.
global observation or something.
So you have a very, very, very broad background. By the way, I got my MPH in epidemiology also
Yeah.
from UCLA. So it is interesting
I,
how, yeah,
I was gonna say I actually have noticed in on my team, um, I find that successful, repeatable innovation is actually very because it's so quantifiable and so kind of like
yeah,
emotionally detached that people with some sort of statistics or a larger health background,
big picture,
well, and quantifiable picture, right?
quantifiable.
To say like, in my mind, innovation, like everyone's an innovator because reality always wins eventually, right?
Yeah,
Like at the end of the day, people either use it or they don't, and at the end of the day, people buy it or they don't.
yeah.
And I think if you have infinite money and infinite time, you will always get to the right answer. And so innovation isn't like, can you solve this problem eventually? Innovation is how quickly and cheaply can you get to the right solution? And that's the game, and that's the engaging fun part is how quickly and cheaply can I do it? Because if you have billions and billions and billions and thousands of years, you're gonna get there,
You're gonna get there.
right? I don't, so I got to figure out how to do that faster and cheaper. And I
Yeah,
think having that quantifiable sort of mindset where you go, okay, how can I, you know, what's an assumption I can test and how can I cheaply test it in a way that really reflects reality so I can keep going as quickly as possible.
What what were the main challenges for you during this period, where you're doing medical school and PhD? What was the biggest challenge for you that you faced?
Um,
Don't tell me you didn't face any challenges.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, I have had a very privileged life, so that makes it easier. Uh, I would say probably length of attention span,
Ah,
right? I I would start out in the morning and I do the medical school classes, in the morning from 7 a.m. to noon, and then from like 1 to 5 or 1 to 6, I do the graduate school classes. And
yeah,
then my wife, who was in law school there at the time, we actually met and she moved there to go to law school with me.
nice.
She'd get in the car and she was so excited. She may be the only person I ever have met who loved law school, but she was so excited about whatever she learned that day that while we were driving home, she would like rattle off what she learned about what cases. And then Josh, are you listening? Are you paying attention? And then she'd start quizzing me on like legal aspects. By the time I got home, I was just spent. Those were long
That
days.
that's how you got into the C-suite, right? You understood the legal aspect.
I I did do a lot of law school by proxy. It,
Exactly. Exactly. That's cool. That's cool. Okay. And then what type of job were you looking right after medicine,
well, so
PhD?
then I was doing residency.
Okay.
Um, And so I did residency at Harbor UCLA in emergency
Okay.
medicine. And
Okay.
then 2 weeks into that, my wife had twins.
Ah,
So that was really good planning.
wow. I was at King Drew down the street well, many years ago, I guess. I'm much more before your time. Um,
You know,
so
I do
yeah.
get to say that I went to college in the 1900s, which just sounds very classic somehow now.
Right. Um, I mean that must be hard to tackle kids in residency and
Yeah. Yeah, that
right.
was that was like not much sleep.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, because our first year was mostly Q3 call.
Yeah,
And then, if I was on call, that meant my wife was taking care of twins, and there was always one of them awake at night, right? Like,
yeah.
one would go to sleep, the other
Wow.
would wake up, right? You couldn't get them to synchronize. And
Yeah, yeah.
so then when I came home finally, right?
And
Then
it's
I'd be
your
there
job.
at night, yeah, and then I'd go back in and do it again. So,
Wow, wow. That must have been the toughest time, as
oh
far as
yeah, yeah,
physically,
yeah,
right?
and it couldn't have been very great cognitively. I have pictures of weddings that I was at that I don't remember. Like, Maritza will say, "Hey, do you remember this wedding?" I'm like, no, we didn't go to that. And she's like, "Here's the picture." I'm like, oh,
I wonder whose idea it was that doctors should, stay awake for 24 hours every third day.
yeah. It was probably doctor's idea because it like
Yeah.
keeps
In my
selective.
day, we used
Yeah,
to
yeah.
work every day, 24
In the
hours a
snow,
day.
right? You're awake for 30 hours in the snow.
Exactly. Uh, okay. Was uh, was UCLA the reason why you wanted to stay in California and
My
be
wife's
around
family
here?
is in LA,
Oh, okay.
and so then we were in LA, and then uh, after residency, I actually assumed I was going to go into academia because I'd already had a fair number of publications and
Yeah.
an RO3 investigator anyway at that point. Um,
Nice.
and
What
then,
what were you working on those days? What
oh yeah,
projects?
so I I really was fascinated by two things. One was physician judgment and decision making, like
Hmm.
in a clinical context, how do people actually make these decisions? There was at the time there was this weird couple studies that came out that just I thought the paradox was so wonderful. One, and you may remember this, this was 98, 99 around then.
Hmm?
in the 1900s. There was a study that showed that black men were less likely to be referred for cardiac catheterization and less likely to
Interesting.
get right heart catheterization. And about the
Yeah,
same time, there was a study showing that, uh, and it was one of the early propensity score matching studies, which was kind of cool,
yeah,
uh, that showed that if you got a Swan-Ganz, if you got a right heart cath put in while you're in the ICU anyway, you had worse outcomes. And so
yeah.
it's something that just fascinated me about this idea that because there's this, and I believe unconscious racial disparity in our
But
decision making, we do more for people, right? Which is
yeah,
inequity. And because we do more, we cause more harm, right? Like there's just something
wow.
about it that's
Yeah,
like it
yeah, yeah.
just it seems so bad. So it's like, whether you're into white supremacy or not, you're like, okay, well, maybe the racial disparity thing isn't so good, right?
Interesting, interesting.
And so
Yeah,
that just kind of like fascinated me. And then
mm,
in order to study that, you end up with what's often a very, if you want to study it in the real world rather than in like, you know, fake lab sort of things, you end
mm,
up with very challenging statistics because you have physician is seeing patients, but those patient outcomes are nested within that physician who's nested within a department, who's nested within a hospital. And so none of those are uncorrelated errors. So then you need to figure out how do you
yeah,
do the statistics around all of those. And so then that's why my PhD work was all in the hierarchical nested models. Um, and my actual dissertation was on judgment and decision making
wow,
and
wow.
and racial disparities. And then a few years ago, one of the early papers I did suddenly got lots of press. And it was like, it's like now that we have that, I guess things move really fast because that one was like, 20 years old.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's interesting. And maybe some of those papers could have become foundational, right? Like, because it was so early on
Yeah,
that
yeah, no one was
topic
paying
that
attention to it back then,
back
and
then,
I'd
but
like to say
later
it
on,
was some sort of super value purpose thing, and maybe
yeah,
it was deep down, but I just thought it was fascinating that you had like such weird things where you had clear racial disparities and equities, and then the treatment
yeah,
outcome actually made it worse, right?
yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
just so
yeah,
weird.
yeah. That's interesting. Um, so, what was the decision? What was the factor that went into your decision getting your first job after
Oh, so
training?
So there was a guy who was ahead of me in residency, 1 year ahead, and who I was a friends with then, Rick Knoll, who you know Rick too, um,
Yeah.
and he had gone to what's now Vituity, but then was CEP, and he's like, "Oh man, you need to come here,"
Okay.
and I said, well, no, I think I want to do academia so I can change the world, and right, why would I go into a community? And at the time, Prentice Tom was with CEP, and he talked to me. He's like, if you do research and find out a better way for us to do something, we can actually change operations and you can change 15 million lives a year. Have you ever
Wow.
done a paper that should have changed care? And I was like, yeah, actually, I have. I did one paper that should have changed care. I can tell you what that was because I just recently saw something that it looks like there's fraction around it. Um,
Okay.
it's like, did it do anything? I'm like, no. He's like, well, if you want to make a difference, then this is how you make a difference. And
Wow.
that was pretty compelling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, the,
Well,
oh, the paper, incidentally, the paper that I did was looking at asthma prescriptions out of the emergency department. I did it
mhm,
with Rita Sedelka, who was one of my early mentors and just a
yeah.
really amazing person. And we did this paper. It was in Cleveland. And what it showed was basically if, and it was looking at kids, if a kid's not on appropriate um, medications for their asthma, largely, inhaled corticosteroids, right? Depending on the severity of their asthma, right? Uh, and they were put on those medications in the emergency department. Whatever the ER doc put them on were just typically renewed infinitely. And so
Mm,
the idea that you can actually that episodic emergency care and my attitude toward as an ER doc's always like, well, you know,
You can
I'm
change the
responsible for like
trajectory.
3 to 30 days and that's it. Thanks, right? But it's
Yeah,
actually do actually change the trajectory because what gets prescribed gets refilled.
yeah,
And then I
yeah,
recently saw somewhere that a quality metric was for people with, persistent intermediate or more severe asthma get inhaled corticosteroids, which I thought
yeah,
was interesting. That
yeah.
one, we did that study in like 2000, 2001, so that's 25 years later. Maybe it did have an impact.
Wow, wow.
Or maybe someone did better work since then and that was more compelling.
But yeah, but the idea started there,
Yeah, yeah.
and
And so I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
probably her idea because it seems like it's a pretty good one.
yeah, yeah. Um, so okay, Vituity, where were you? Where was your job? Which hospital?
So I started at Good Samaritan in San Jose,
Okay.
and I'm still there today. So that's
Wow,
still where I work clinically.
wow. So you are a one hospital doc. I mean, like one,
One main
one,
gig. Yeah, I've worked at
one.
other places,
Yeah, yeah.
but I've never not worked at Good Sam.
You know, I thought I was the only one such person that worked in one hospital for 27 years. But yeah, I was in South City Kaiser. But yeah, I mean that's great because then you've developed the whole, you know, not just the social circle, but the medical credibility and all of
hmm
that, right? That helps with your day-to-day work.
Oh yeah, it makes it a lot easier because you know who you're talking to on the phone and they know you and
Yeah. And then they respect you because obviously, you've been there long enough to show your good work.
right.
Um, what okay, so you're practicing. What was what did you have any administrative roles other than just seeing patients?
Oh yeah, so I started out I forget what my title was, Director of Data or something like that, but it was 2008 and the question was, are data and analytics and IT going to be important in healthcare? Which, in academia thought was
Yeah,
pretty interesting, but in the community it's like, at the
yeah.
time we'd say, "Oh, these are these great dashboards," and go to the medical director and say, "Hey, this shows you the performance." And then they'd be like, "Hey, I know who's good and who's bad. I don't need data. I just need good leadership." Well, that's actually not an
Just ask
unreasonable
the
understanding.
nurses, they'll tell you.
Yeah, it's not entirely false either, right? Like, it's a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
point,
yeah,
right? And I actually had someone say, the only reason you need good data and dashboards is so you can hide bad leadership behind it. And I was like, I don't know,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
entirely untrue.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so then I spent 10 years helping us build up our data and engineering and IT
Yeah.
analytics stuff.
Analytics work. Wow.
So I did a lot
Was
on the blinky light side of things.
Yeah, yeah. Were there any so during this period, were there any insights that you brought to the organization that actually changed the trajectory of something, right? I'm sure there must be
Oh yeah, we
moments
did all sorts
where,
of stuff around malpractice analytics and scribes and we did a ton of tools for making it easier to call patients back after your shift to being able to predict, bottlenecks to
yeah.
identifying how to better match your staffing patterns to figuring out where it's going to be hard to recruit physicians, how hard that's going to be depending on the site and the
Hmm.
population characteristics we had some cool models for data ingestion. It's actually interesting to see the patents because they're early and completely unenforceable. But
Yeah,
back in
yeah,
2014 or so, we had some ML models that automated the data ingestion in real time.
yeah, yeah.
And now think about all the people that are doing that are stepping on our patent. It's like, oh, that's unenforceable. It's broad, but it's still cool that we're there first.
Yeah, 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 you have your name on it. But um, but was that more operational, or do you think it affected the quality and outcomes for patients, or was it more operational for the physician side of things, or actually made a difference in the patient's lives?
Yeah, so I this is kind of how I think about it
Hmm.
is I think and you've probably had this experience, right? When you see someone and they have a kidney stone, or they've broken their leg, or they have a bad lack, or they're having a bad day, right? They're
Yeah.
suffering. Um, and would you say that what makes the biggest difference in terms of their pain, suffering, and the clinical care you can provide is a decision support tools that tells you that the broken leg is broken, or is it that instead of taking 6 hours to get them through the department, you can do it in two and you can get their pain under control 4 hours faster,
Mm. Mm.
right? And I would
So this
say,
is this is more of a real-time
yeah,
improvement in care.
yeah, and I would say, the first big swath of making patient care better is making it easier to provide the timely clinical care,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like, I mean, that
yeah.
applies to every diagnosis and every individual that walks through the door before you
That's
get
true.
to how can we work on the margins of clinical inadequacy, right? Because I think
Yeah,
most clinicians, I mean, I make plenty of mistakes. I think we all do.
yeah,
But we do an okay job. We do pretty good. Right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, tackling something like that, systematically, and also, I guess, looking at the big picture, that definitely gives you a different insight to how to solve that problem,
Oh yeah. Well,
I
and
think.
and I think, I always talk about the multidimensional mediocrity and
Yeah, what is that? Explain to us.
yeah. Uh, so so I feel that if I'm exceptional, and I think I'm exceptional because I have multidimensional mediocrity, which is to
Okay,
say, I have suit, scrub, geek, and quant, right? So suit because I've been in the business of healthcare and know how the dollars flow and what the different business incentives are in different structures. And so that's a suit. And scrub because I still practice. I do 3 days and three overnight shifts a month still.
okay.
And so, it could be a good demo, but I feel what it's like at 3 a.m. when you got three drunks screaming at you, six nurses waiting to talk to you, and 15 patients waiting to be seen by you in your single
Yeah,
coverage, right? And then
yeah.
what looked like a good demo has way too many clicks now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
and so I can have that suit and the scrub feel. And geek because I was a software engineer. One of the things I did do in high school, I guess we didn't talk about, was I sold
Yeah.
some software to therapy offices. I wrote it. This was back using Visual Basic and a Microsoft
Wow.
Access database,
You
and wrote.
actually made money there.
I
Looks
did,
like,
I did,
right?
and that was pretty. I was like, wow, this is cool. I could get a car with this, right? So I got a car,
Yeah, yeah.
and that was 1991. And then in college, I was a SQL programmer to make money. I did. I worked in the dish room and worked as a SQL programmer. Those were my two main jobs in college. One was in the
What?
morning, evening. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I know what it's like to be in a stand-up. I know what it's like to say, okay, feature complete because this is what you said, and then the user is like, that's absolutely not what I want, and you're sitting there going, this is exactly what you specified, right? So I know what that
Lost
feels like in
lost
that
in
conversation.
translation or something.
Yeah. And then the
What do you
quant part
call it?
because the PhD in stats, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so I guess what that means is I have the ability to view the world and to know what it feels like from each of those four different perspectives. And when you're trying to find a solution in healthcare, it actually needs to satisfy all the different perspectives, right?
Mm.
It's kind of like a weakest link sport, right? Like, you have these superstar sports where one superstar can carry a team, and then you have these weakest link sports where you're just as good as your worst player.
Yeah.
And I think weakest link sport where, if your weakest component can sink the whole
Mm.
endeavor. And so being able to see things from all those different perspectives uh, really helps figure out how you can navigate innovations in a way that solves a problem while meeting the needs of all those different constituencies.
That's great insight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the reason I call it mediocrity is because, I have plenty of ego. I think pretty highly of myself, but there are plenty of people who are smart out there, smarter out there, and they only do one of those things.
Yeah.
I fool myself into thinking that if someone's as smart or smarter and hardworking and just does one of those things, and I'm going to be as good as they are at it while doing all those other things, then I'm lying to myself.
Yeah.
Uh, So but
Would, would that
it's
be
hard. Yeah.
like jack of all arts or
Yeah. Jack of all arts, of all trades, master of none, but in a way that's somewhat uniquely put together.
yeah, yeah. But here's the thing. But if you put all those pieces together, it's more than the sum of those parts, right? Because because what you get is much more valuable than each of those uh, pieces.
At least in the mediocre category, right? Like you can
Yeah,
find a pretty phenomenal one and one have their uses, but it makes it really hard to lead and have that vision for how you're going to go from here to that end point and be able to navigate that efficiently.
yeah, yeah. That's very interesting. Very. Um, so what is something that you some mantra or something that you live by in this job in this role for you? What are some caveats or some I guess I'm looking for a quote here.
Yeah, I would say you should be wedded to your values and you should be apathetic to your beliefs.
Mm, values and beliefs. Okay. Uh,
And
can you explain to us or give us examples or
yeah, and I think that that's exceptionally important in innovation. And so at a higher level, what I mean is wedded to your values, you can value integrity. That's a value.
yeah,
Improving life is a value that we are here to improve lives. That is a value. And I think that once you start to give an inch on any of those things, that is a recipe for disaster. In innovation, the value is what is the value I'm going to deliver to the patient, right?
hmm,
To the user, to the physician, right? What is the value I'm delivering? And I need to be wedded to that value. The
okay,
belief is how do I get there, right? I believe my hypothesis is
yeah,
that I'm going to do this and it will result in that value. And it turns out, at least if you're me, you're usually wrong the first many iterations of those beliefs, right? You're like, I think this is going to work. This is my belief. And then it turns out
yeah,
you're, and if you just clutch to that too tightly and your identity is wrapped up in your belief and in your hypothesis, um, then not only do you hold on to that too long, which is a waste, more
yeah,
important, there's an opportunity cost to you not listening for what the world is telling you. And I don't mean advisors,
yeah.
um, when not listening to what the world is telling you so that you don't actually pursue something that would have been successful to deliver that value,
And which would have been much better
which would have been much
solution.
better and remarkably easier.
Hmm.
And which I guess that gets into my another one that I live by, which is everyone has an opinion and only two personas have answers,
Hmm.
right?
How is
You
that?
know, we do a lot of consulting. I do a lot of consulting. Clearly, I give
Yeah,
lots of opinions. They're
yeah,
just opinions, right?
yeah.
Your user decides to use your product or not, so they actually have an answer for you. Your
Okay.
customer decides to buy your product or not, they actually have an answer for you. Everybody else only has opinions. They could be informed opinions, they could be uninformed opinions, they could be right, they could be wrong, but they are simply opinions. Your user, your customer, those two personas have answers.
Got it. Got it. Well, that's a great you know, rule to live by. Um, give me some examples of where you're working on something and it went haywire and everything went wrong. Failures,
Oh, wow.
most memorable failures.
My most memorable failure. So I would say one of them that was, oh, let me give you an entertaining one that wasn't a huge deal.
Okay.
I'll give you another one that was far more disappointing. I had a lot of the disappointing ones. We can go through those for hours. Um, one of the more memorable ones was this was towards the right after COVID started, and we had this really cool technology we were working with. We were advising consulting on it. We didn't develop it in-house. We were just working, we were acted as the product owners because we go through, we do all that kind of. Anyway, so this one allowed you to register for a virtual visit in the emergency department. And you're like, why would you do that? And let me explain how that works. So someone says, I have this virtual complaint. It would, let's say that you're in the ED, you're working a shift. Someone could register online for an ED visit with you, and it's virtual.
Hmm.
And when you pick them up in Epic, right, and you click on them, instead of giving you a room number, it just as virtual, and you click on it, and it just launches a virtual session with them. But you're still working in your Epic instance, you're still working in your exact same workflow. The only difference is instead of stepping into a room physically, it's a
Hmm.
virtual encounter, right? So it
Hmm.
doesn't disrupt your workflow any. Now you talk to them, and you could say, "Oh, I'm going to just take care of you," and you stay in your same EHR and you prescribe whatever, or you can say, "I need to get order some blood work," and you order blood work on them, and then when they arrive at the department, they check in, but they're already registered, and they can just go and get their CT scan or their blood work or whatever, and then you go and you see them physically now, but you can just finish it, right? Like it's a really nice workflow.
Yeah,
Very
like a
cool.
hybrid model.
Yeah, like a hybrid model, but you're not telling them, oh, this, you need to go to whatever ER and you need to go be seen in person. You say, come see me. I'm on shift,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so you
yeah.
just started the visit. Um, and that was really cool. So what was the failure part of that? The first day we rolled it out and a patient came in and, I'm on site and I'm all excited. And the patient comes in and it wasn't Good Sam. It was another hospital where I actually did do shifts as well. Um, the patient comes in and they go to check in and scan the QR code. And it turns out of the entire freaking hospital, there was a 20-foot radius that was a dead zone, which was where we carefully placed all the QR codes to check in.
Oh my God. Yeah,
And
that's like
you check the QR code and you're like, oh, it's fine. And then you go place it where it's supposed to be, right? Yeah, I should have checked it
that's
right.
like dead on arrival.
That was dead on arrival. We were able to get like a repeater, but I had to,
Yeah.
I was another few weeks out because it's a hospital, right? So that was
Uh,
like, you got to be kidding me. Um, that was nice. And
yeah.
then another one that we did a major acute cardiac event predictor tool, and we got a patent for it. It was an early ML/AI model, which is kind of cool. This is 2015, and basically it looked through several hundred features and determined what your risk of major acute cardiac event was over the next 30 days. And then the model worked amazingly well. And then we're okay. Now we just let the provider know. We could not find a way to let a provider know that within their workflow that worked at all. We uh, we tried texting them. We tried another dashboard. We tried telling their scribe to tell them. Nothing really integrated it adequately,
Wow. Wow.
and so we just
Well,
abandoned it. But it was a
well,
great model. We got I actually have a plaque on the wall for that patent that went nowhere.
that's exactly what I built at Kaiser.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, how I guess great minds think alike.
Oh yeah.
And we built that platform and actually fairly successfully. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you were able to integrate into the workflow much better than I did for that one.
Yeah.
Because if you
So
don't, right, there's no
yeah,
like there.
it won't work.
Yeah, you're like you might as well do it post hoc, right? There's no reason to go through all that effort to do it in real time. Just
Exactly.
30 days later, call them up, say, did you die or not, right? Like not changing anybody's life there. We
Hey
didn't.
Josh, this is really fun, and we could go on, but I'm looking at the clock and we're coming to an end. So I have to ask you this last question is, what is one piece of advice that you'd like to give to other innovators, physicians or not, but innovators that are innovating in healthcare? What is one piece of advice that they should live by?
I would say donuts.
Hmm,
And so this it may sound weird, but let me explain why donuts are the most important thing for innovation.
okay.
So it turns out that donuts unlock everything that you really need to know.
Mm,
Shockingly so. And I was telling you, I think before we jumped on, I was sharing that that the framework that we've developed over the past couple decades for innovation, we're now teaching that Stanford Emergence class, and we just finished our first class there. And I taught made a heavy emphasis on the importance of donuts. And one of the teams was working on heat exhaustion and construction workers, right? I was like, well, you need to take donuts and you need to ask people what they want, what they don't want, what works, why these products that are out there don't work, what they would see. Then you need to go and show them things and say, would you do this? Wouldn't you do this? And it doesn't matter who they are. I would bet Donald Trump you could give him donuts and he'd talk to you. And everybody responds to donuts. And they're like, no. I'm like, you got to do it. And we even had a donut fund as part of the class.
Uh,
So then the students were talking about, and these are all graduate students, most of them are MBA students. They were talking about how they went to a construction site with donuts and they said, hey, we got some donuts. Can we talk to you? And they were like on the other side of the fence. And the dudes would like stop their heavy machinery and like climb out of the hole and run over, right? For donuts. And I learned the trick when I was in grad school and I saw someone get interventional radiologists because they're like what almost at poverty line, right? They don't get paid anything.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yet with that income, they would talk to anyone with donuts too.
yeah.
Right? Like they could probably afford their own donuts, but no, if someone offers you donuts, you talk to them. And and so, what I ultimately learned was I don't have the answers and I actually don't need to have the answers. I just need to have donuts and a willingness to listen to people with the answers.
Listen to people.
And so I
That's
would say,
that's great
whatever you're
advice.
wanting to innovate in, remember you don't need to have the answer. You just need to have donuts and be willing to listen to people telling you what the answer is. And even when you don't like what they're saying to you is reality and it's going to
Just
win.
listen to
Might
it.
as well just listen to it.
That's great advice. Well, with that great piece of advice, let's close the session. Thank you very much for coming, Josh. I'm sure many people would want to ask you questions, but if somebody wants to find you, where's the best place to find you?
Oh yeah.
On
You
on
uh you can email me. It's Joshua, Joshua at inflect.health.
Okay. And are you on social media somewhere? Maybe
I'm on
LinkedIn?
LinkedIn. I'm on
Okay.
LinkedIn. Um,
Okay.
and it's Joshua Tamayo-Sarver, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a weird name, so.
And no problem. I think I almost got it by now. By now. Uh, Thank you very much, Josh. It's a pleasure, and I'm sure a lot of people will take these pearls of wisdom in your life experiences, and hopefully they'll be a better innovator.
Yeah,
Uh,
or well, and as if they remember that I have opinions and there's only two personas that
yes.
have the answers, then they're in good shape.
Yeah.
Although I
Yeah.
would love to, have you done one of these on yourself where you talk about your journey?
Nobody asked me.
You'll have to have like a Synthesia avatar or something so you can
Yeah,
you.
exactly. The avatar has to ask. Oh yeah, I have tons of failure stories, and
Don't we all?
so when you talked about donuts, I remember what worked for me. It was gift cards, Starbucks gift cards. If you give that to
Yeah.
doctors or nurses, they will love you forever,
Oh,
and
I'll have
they'll
to try that.
they
I
will do what I mean. It's only $5 or $10, but they love it.
I did try at one point. I actually published a study comparing giving someone a $2. I didn't study donuts. I studied giving someone a $2 bill versus giving them a chance to win 250 bucks, like a
Uh-huh.
entry. $2 bill, much, much, much better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, even though I had it so that the monetary value was equal,
Yeah, I
but
think I think the donut will hit more spots in the brain
I think it
than a
does.
$2 bill or a
And there's
gift
something about
card.
like bringing food to someone, especially when it's a donut. I
Yes,
don't know.
yes. And
Donuts just
also it
unlock
kind of,
innovation.
equalizes you, whoever it is,
Everybody wants donuts. And even
you're
people who
breaking
don't
bread.
want donuts because of the carbs, when you open up, the box to them, they're like, okay, well, if you're giving them to me.
Okay. Thank you very much. This is a great donut that you brought us, Josh. So thank you,
My
and
pleasure.
wish you all the best in your endeavors. And Great.
All right, thanks. Well, we'll
We'll
talk
see
some
you
more.
around.
I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. All right, folks, that's it for today. And, this is a recorded event, so you can always go back and look for those pearls. And of course, Josh is a great innovator and also a great supporter of innovation. And we've been very pleased with the way he looks at things and the way he makes decisions. So if you have any questions, of course, you can always email him or email me, and I'll funnel it to him. So thank you and good night.
All right, thank
Bye.
you.